Okay. I'll call the July 18th City Council meeting to order. Call the roll.
Abby Hansen.
Here.
John Hawkins.
Here.
Megan McFarland.
Here.
Matt McKinney.
Here.
Logan Welch.
Here. Call for motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 1, petitions, communications and requests. This is the time of the meeting that a citizen may address the council on a matter not on the agenda. Except in case of emergency, the city council will not take any action at this meeting, but may ask the staff to research the matter or have the matter placed on the agenda for a future meeting. Anyone have anything? No. Okay, we'll go to item 2, minutes, claims, reports and licenses. The following items have been deemed non-controversial routine actions to be approved by the council in a single motion. If a council member or member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. I have A is minutes of July 5th. B is a resolution on payroll for a period ending July 2nd and paid on July 8th. C is a resolution on bills and approved fund list. D is a recommend approval for issuance of beer and liquor licenses by the Department of Commerce for the following. 1 Class A C liquor license and Sunday service for La Perla La Roca LLC, 611 2nd Street, restaurant only. E is the city manager reports for June 2022. F is inspection department reports for April and May. G is the police department reports for June. H is the fire department reports for June. And I is the Hamilton County solid waste agenda packet for July 13.
Move to approve collectively. Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Okay, general agenda. A, reports, recommendations from hotel motel tax round 25 grant applications. Have the minutes. And yes, we'll. Good evening.
And sent you over the kind of the minutes on the last, on what we recommend to you guys.
Yes.
So first one we had was Hamilton County Expo for upgrade to their bathroom facility, make it ADA compliant, and adding a special room, ready room for judges and such, $100,000. Hamilton County Speedway for $15,000 for marketing. That was overall the lower ticket prices. Legacy Learning, $3,800 for specialty class projects. Webster City, $69,450 for the mini pitch soccer system. Webster City, Sunset Heights Schools for a new playground equipment, $35,800. Webster City Community Theater, $5,710 for trying out a state-of-the-art projector for maybe a future purchase.
Yep.
So a total of $391,500 was requested, and we recommend $229,760.
Okay. So I had a question on the legacy learning one, I guess, as to why you thought it should be rejected to what it was.
You want to take that?
That one, I moved $3,800 just for
the
just the
supplies.
materials.
Supplies,
Yeah. The others, there was a little bit of back and forth on how much is going to be for personnel.
$7,500 was requested for personnel. We typically don't fund personnel. That's not something that we usually do. The marketing, it appears according to their minutes that they pay out $1,000 a month to a marketing person, and it states in their minutes that that has not been productive. So another part of the decision was when the presentation was made, we were told that there was a line for classes. There's people waiting to get into the classes. And so
Advertising money for it, that seemed necessary.
Right.
There's already a lineup.
right. The other part that assisted in that decision was when they, when you look at who is supporting the organization, it's all people from their board. So it doesn't really, I think, fall into the category of where we felt like it was something that was going to benefit more people in the community. The audience that they're trying to reach is very limited. The number of students that they can support is very limited. A lot of, if you go back and review their packet, you'll find that the companies that they put for support are all companies that also participate in their board. So our job isn't to get in their books, but our job is to try to be fair.
Hey, council, this is Logan. I hope you guys can hear me. I appreciate the evaluation of their presentation. And I just want to, kind of tell everybody a little bit about some of the services that Legacy Learning has provided and why they're requesting this money, and a suggestion I might make to the board, the council to consider. They have an autism program that my oldest son participated in that was extremely beneficial for his creative needs. Students came this personnel they had to hire had to be specially trained to work with special needs children. So I kind of understand some of the personnel needs and stuff, and you're exactly right, Linda. That some of the people supporting Legacy Learning are board members. My company, sponsors Legacy Learning events because they need the money, and it's really more of a donation than it is any type of advertising. It's just like if I were to help out a PPC ball, team or something. So they're looking for money anywhere they can get it, and if we have something to give them, and I'm all for it. But I totally understand your evaluation and your recommendation. However, I'd like the council to consider at least allocating a little bit more, if not all, of their requests for these upcoming classes. Because cancer support, veterans are some other ones I think that are some pretty unique services that we can bring to Webster City. I feel with track.
May I respond?
Yeah.
Over the past 9 years, Legacy Learning has been supported by the Hotel Motel Board to the tune of $95,000 plus. So we feel like our group has already supported them in many, many ways. I understand they want to hold the classes. The director of the company is an artist herself. There's plenty of school teachers in town that can assist if they wanted to ask them, but that's basically the reasons.
Okay.
And she told us that the classes there's people lined up to take the classes, so.
The classes are offered for free, correct? Or not?
Did-
The ones in the grant we're asking should be free, and that's our dilemma is we support our programs with tuition. And it makes it problematic for underserved audiences to pay tuition. So our teachers, our professional staff are paid by, but they're not personnel, they're actually professional contacts. I mean, there would be,
Oh, I just said personnel because that's the way that we listed on the
I
application.
mean, they're your professional teachers, but they're not like our personnel. I mean, it's not a staff position that you don't fund. You fund professional services often with grants.
Is that what you meant by personnel?
Well, yeah, yeah.
The grant required that we answer it that way. You guys listed out how you wanted personnel to be on that grant. So that's why
So it's kind of
paying
semantic
those
difference.
teachers.
And also, in this grant, none of our board is teaching staff. One of the people from the autism program became our board member after she did such a crackerjack job at the last autism thing, but they're moving, so she won't be here either. But the board members who teach, Madeline and I, that we are not involved with this grant except for planning.
The
We hire
specialists you bring,
professionals.
they specialists you're bringing in for this, they're specialists you're bringing in for this program. So,
It's concerning to me that it was felt like that wasn't serving enough people when it's serving an underserved audience, which is obviously going to always be a small group of people. It's a group of people who's underserved. That's the purpose.
Hopefully, it's always small.
Great.
Veterans, though, are not in that plan. And frankly, neither are cancer patients anymore.
The hard part is we've reached out to the organizations to get their support and their need addressed, and then with only funds for supplies, we can't really have the classes on a tuition-free basis. There wouldn't be any money to do that. That would just preclude the whole program.
what sort of figure do you think you're going to need to be able to hold the program?
I think it was 87.
16 you're asking. Thing there. Is there,
Minus the 1,000 for marketing. So 15.
well, thank you very much for doing your job, and we'll see if we're going to do anything there with that one. Thank you very much. So, what would you like to, Council, what would you like to do? Would you want to change that figure at all, or do you want to look?
So
what's your-
two questions I have. What type of numbers are we talking about? So it's an underserved group, but are we talking about 20? Are we talking about 50? What are we anticipating for?
The
People
classes are
served.
limited by the space in the teaching studio, so 8 would be max.
8? Is that what you said, 8?
And 4 different classes. 4 different workshops.
So a total of 32 then
I mean,
over
for
there.
instance, autism last time was limited by, we were working from another grant, an Arts Midwest grant, and we had to buy laptops or iPads for them to work. So we were limited by the grant to be able to support 4 people with their iPads. Now we have those 4 iPads, so this time we added 4 to make it so we could get to 8. But with autism especially, it's not about numbers, it's about getting them a right experience. So in a small space, 6 would be probably what we're doing at max. 8, depending on maybe in 2 sessions. Or extended session.
Another thing to add there, I believe, oh, is that right?
Just hang on, man.
Class, hold on.
Just hang on a sec. Well, go, Logan.
Just another thing to add to that autism based class around creativity, and it was a small class, but another cool thing they did with that is they did a premiere of the project at the community theater. Brought family from all over the state and to watch these kids premieres. So it's another example of them using another entity we support to hotel motel, to some of the, I guess residual or almost as a byproduct of that class. I guess if there's a motion needed, I think I would recommend awarding the full amount to Legacy Learning. I know we've supported them quite a bit over the years, but they've brought a lot of really unique programs to our community and a lot of focus on Webster City. Maybe it's not seen by everybody, but I know those programs are being seen by many people throughout the state. I would motion to move to just take the recommendation of Hotel Motel Board with the amendment of giving the full amount to Legacy Learning as the only change.
I would second
Of the
that.
15,000, not the 16,000,
Well,
the minus the 1,000 for the marketing, right?
so the marketing here is listed as 3,500, which is what is the number?
The 1,000 for the marketing,
Well, it's listed up here as 35.
that's the projected cost, sorry. I don't have the paperwork in front of me. I know, but I don't have, it's outlined in the actual grant. 1,000 of that would come off because we are no longer using the marketing company that we have.
You want to make it,
Yeah, I'll change my motion then. It sounds like the number that council may be more comfortable with minus the marketing is 15,000. So I would make my motion is, do we take the recommendation of the Hotel Motel Tax Board with the amendment of Legacy Learning receiving $15,000 for the free program?
I second that.
okay. All right,
Okay, so 15,000, is that correct?
The 1,550 or whatever, $15,050.
$50.
$15,050.
call for a motion.
We already have a
Oh,
motion and a second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, so we'll take all the recommendations and we'll change the Legacy Learning to 15,050.
You understand that this is setting a precedent, right?
We do. It's,
So maybe it'd be a better idea if the council came to the meeting. So you can hear everything we hear. Otherwise, you're just gonna have all the presenters here every time there's a vote.
I think we heard what you had to say, though.
Absolutely.
no, we thank you and I'm sorry, we're doing what we did, but it's what it is. So thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Did I lose one place already? Too many bits of paper. 3B, update on, we did the motion. B is an update on Heart of Iowa Regional Housing Trust Fund. Who's going?
I'm doing that. So this is an update for the council to kind of bring you up to speed in terms of the progress, as well as some upcoming changes with the Heart of Iowa Regional Housing Trust Fund. Back in 2018, the city had partnered with Hamilton County and Webster County and the cities therein to establish a regional housing trust and leverage housing funds that are distributed by the Iowa Finance Authority. Since then, part of the funding comes from matching funds that have to be generated locally within each community. And those matching funds are then used for projects specific to those different cities and communities there within. There's been included in the packet is a list of projects sorted by the actual, just the street that it's in due to sensitivity for the applicants. They withheld the specific street addresses, so just limited to the property, the streets located and the grant number that's associated with it. So over the span of 3 years, there have been 14 projects that have been completed in Webster City, totaling over $164,000. Of that, if you go back to the memo, you can see the matching portions that the council had approved over the last few years for that. So we've been very beneficial. It's been very beneficial to have some of our local financial institutions that have been involved with both their own financial contributions, as well as some of them that have members that have been active with the trust, either as a board member, including some of the Stacy Werda with Neighborhood Realty has been involved with that, but also during the projects themselves, the banks have been active in seeing that their customers and the investments they've made to them by way of the loans they've provided are being able to be fulfilled and the properties be able to be restored, addressing any concerns related to health, safety, and unsafe property conditions that might arise. This has encompassed everything from plumbing needs to HVAC needs to electrical upgrades, heaters, furnaces, things of that sort. Some changes that have occurred recently has been when the fund was initially established, there was a $10,000 cap on the projects. And because of the signs of the times where we're at, the board recently approved to increase that amount due to bids that were coming in higher than that 10,000 match. So it's a lot closer to 15. And then one of the recent changes that has occurred is there's been a request from some neighboring counties that have requested to join our housing trust. There was a regional housing trust based out of Clarion, where their administrator is retiring, and that nonprofit agency is not going to continue their housing programs. And so that left well over 10 counties in the north central area scrambling to try to figure out what direction they want to go. Some of them shifted to Nyakog up by Mason City. They absorbed about 6 of them. They left about 4 counties remaining. The board decided to approve their participation in the housing trusts under certain conditions that they don't seek, and that the program isn't altered or changed in the manner in which is being carried out right now. The board representation at this time doesn't change. They also are responsible for ensuring that they provide or establish points of contacts within the communities that are going to be participating in the program. Those points of contact serve for getting documents processed, notarized, because they are loans that are issued on the property itself. There's also a building inspector or a property inspector that evaluates the projects, both from at the start as well as completion. And so there is one inspector that has worked both in Webster County and Hamilton County in conjunction with Corey, our own building inspector. So for those additional counties that are coming in, they're going to have to determine and figure out an appropriate inspector to work on those projects they're within. So those are some of just the big overarching changes that are to come. I replaced Carla Wetzler, our former planning director, on the board. So for the foreseeable future, I'll be attending these quarterly or by every other month meetings. We're in a process of looking to change that if that moves forward. One of the concerns that raised with expanding the size of the trust is right now there is a City of Fort Dodge provides the personnel to help administer this, and it's usually essentially a part-time role for that person. They're a full-time position, but this is just part-time of their responsibilities, and City of Fort Dodge has an admin fee associated with that. One of the concerns as this gets bigger is whether the City of Fort Dodge can continue to maintain that. They are likely to consider adding additional personnel, but not knowing until they fully implement the changes what the workload will be. That's a question mark that's going to be hanging over the trust itself, and how successful it could be with how much participation we get with the other counties. And so with that, that's the gist of the summary. If you have any specific questions, I can answer for you.
Okay. Item C is Police Department Vehicle Replacement Discussion, Purchase and Financing for a 2022 Ram 1500 Special Service Vehicle for the Police Department.
I wasn't sure if you wanted us to read this word by word. It's just 6 pages, but
Oh, thank you.
in a nutshell,
In a nutshell, it's needed.
let me Charlotte and I updated this chart in terms of the vehicles and mileage. I'm gonna pull that up right here because we went ahead and we included the engine hours for the vehicles that have them. But in summary, we have an aging fleet within the police departments. We continually, unfortunately, the newest vehicles that we've had, they have had miles added onto them as well as engine hours. And unfortunately, there are also some of the vehicles in the fleet that we've experienced the most mechanical issues with that as well. I think, as I mentioned in the memo, in the past, we would look to trade in some of the older vehicles that still had a reasonable value in there, trade them in so that we can maximize the value and procure new vehicles. The challenge that I pose and steered Shiloh and the police department towards is that knowing that what we know of the newer vehicles and the mechanical issues we face, I didn't want to move forward with trading in some of the older vehicles that perhaps don't have the major mechanical problems we have with the newer vehicles. I was afraid that we traded in the older ones and then the newer ones that we currently have would eventually not last as long. So we'd be in a more dire situation in that case. And so one of the options that I put forth in there was to just procure 3 new vehicles over the next couple months as they become available, and just augment the fleet until we start seeing some of the other vehicles reach their useful life, or just unfortunately, for lack of a better word, no longer functional. And so that's part of the challenge we're facing with that. But as you see, as both in terms of the mileage on the odometer reading, as well as the engine hours available to them, they all are getting significant use. There's a couple different sources within fleet managers as well as manufacturers in terms of what the actual engine hours equate towards an odometer reading, because you have a lot of idling hours with police vehicles. And so the average we've seen more common has been 1 idling engine hour per 33 odometer miles. And so you do the math on some of those, they're especially the 2019 Tahoe that's pushing 10,000 engine hours at 30 miles. That's a $300,000 mile engine on that vehicle. And so, and then one of the other issues we're facing is both, as we dealt with replacing trucks for our utility departments as well as for the line department, has just been a supply and demand issue with having inventories available that you can readily move forward. So lead times are a little bit much more difficult. You saw the spreadsheet from the state's procurement office for state vehicles that are under the state contract, and all of those are redded out as they're not available for placing orders at this time. Some of the dealers that are on the state contract are getting shipments in, but there's no guarantee of when they're coming in. And so it's kind of on a first come, first served basis if you can get in. And that's the case with the Ram 1500 that we had included in there from Stiver, from Stu Hansen Dodge. And so there's not a simple answer to this, in all honesty. It's kind of it's trying to pick the lesser of the options, lesser of the evils that are presented in the options on how we move forward. For clarification, the K9 Tahoe 690 is not a human officer. I would say it's Moab. So if you saw that, as I did, and I questioned Shiloh on was, when did we get a 14th officer? He's like, well, that's Moab. So that's why you see it.
He's a 14th officer.
So that's part of the challenge we face with this. We originally had purchased the Impala in 2017, and that's the vehicle that Shiloh's chief uses on a regular basis, but it's not a patrol vehicle. So it's not ideally situated to use in a safe manner for patrol purposes. We also have the issue as the older models, or they've changed the body style on the Tahoes. And so before we had the advantage of being able to transfer some of the equipment, particularly the center consoles and the prisoner partition in the vehicles. And with the shift in the body style and the interior measurements, we no longer have that luxury of being able to transfer equipment as easily from one to the other. Radios, yes. Light bar sirens, yes, to a certain extent, but the console, center console fitting, the partition, and some of the other accessories on there are a little bit more difficult to try to piecemeal into it. So, and then we have the challenge of just how to pay for the cost of the vehicles, as well as the equipment. We included a breakdown further down.
You just see Doty.
We did. You see the breakdown in terms of the equipment that's needed No, let's go back up here. So you're looking, the cost for the cameras have gone way up over the past decade and a half. You're looking at a per vehicle price for the camera system alone of $6,400. Radio system, that's been more expensive, especially since the switch to digital. So now you don't have the luxury of having a VHF or a non-digital radio in there. You're having to upgrade everything, and then the cost for upfitting. We only got one quote from Stivers Midwest Pro Upfitters. We've also used Carl Upfitters in the past, but Carl has a long lead time and wait line to get into their shop to get that upfitted. But ballpark figure per vehicle, you're looking at just shy of $22,000 to upfit that vehicle, in addition to the cost of the vehicle itself. And so, how do we pay for this? And the question that we drive Doty mad on is we're looking right now a couple different options for financing. We've reached out to a couple of our local financial institutions to get a rate for borrowing to pay for these vehicles if the council decides to move forward. In the past, we've used a leasing company that worked with Chevrolet on financing the last 3 Tahoes. Their interest rates was a lot higher than what our local institutions can do. So if council decides to move forward with replacing one or moving to look at replacing all 3, we'd follow back up with the financial institutions to finalize that and bring that back to you at a future date. So I did make a mention in one of the examples. So just last week, one of the Tahoes, the check engine light came on, and I showed what the engine code pertains to. We have confirmed that it's going to need a new transmission. This is one of the 2019 Tahoes I gotta find it. Who's gonna drive me?
Trouble is, it's under warranty, but it's going to take weeks to fix. You don't have a vehicle for a couple of weeks.
Yep, it's unit 4 with 78,000.
So does that, we've done any transmissions in the others yet?
Don't say
Doesn't look- Well, the trouble is that what's the warranty is going to run out on the others soon, isn't it? I think.
One of the also major differences with this is going to be a pickup truck, the police service vehicle with the Ram. It's not patrol rated, so it's not going to be doing high-speed chases over 100,000 miles. And so it's a very different upkeep in terms of, for instance, pursuit rated tires versus non-pursuit rated. Those small details that kind of play into that, but the questions that Shiloh and I can answer for you. Of the options presented in the memo, do you have a preference on how you would like us to proceed?
Your recommendation is option 1.
Yeah, I think my recommendation was leaning towards option 1 for, as I mentioned, for the concern that I don't know which vehicle is going to fail on them next, whether it's the older ones or if it's some of the newer ones that we recently purchased in the last 2018, 2019 years.
But the way those last 3 have been running, we wouldn't want to keep them very long anyway, because their current rate's not very good, is it?
The benefit is it'll spread mileage out as much as we can and try to keep what we have going. That's the biggest benefit.
Yeah. I'm wondering if are you better off just, keeping them 3 years and be gone, sort of thing. But is it looking like that they're at the amount of hours they're at in 3 years they're almost at the end of their life anyway.
I honestly don't have confidence that they would last 3 years.
Well, we've got 3 years out of the last ones, I guess. It took us 3 years to pay them off, or pay the lease off.
Right. Yeah, and as I mentioned, the other options are to consider possibly trading in some of the current fleet we have. We'd have to really think hard on which units we would want to consider trading in, so we don't end up with some of the ones with more mechanical problems. And I think a third option, which was this third option, replacing all the vehicles at once, which I don't recommend right now. And then the fourth option, which is also probably not realistic, but pursuing used vehicles with Kansas and Missouri State Patrol, rotate their vehicles, retiring them out at 50,000 mile marks. But we don't know what the engine hours are. And while they do have some benefit of having some of the equipment already installed, we really don't know what we're getting out of it. On top of adding 70 to 80,000 miles, which within 3 to 5 years. We had budgeted for the next 3 years lease payments, or pursuing purchasing or lease payments in the capital equipment plan, with each year budgeting $60,000 each year.
See, I don't see that the used thing works unless you're gonna buy one for everybody. Because then you got to keep the miles down that low, because they've already got 50,000 miles on them. So you're only going to have them a year and you'll be wore out if you keep them at the current pace you do now.
A lot of.
So then you need 13 of them.
A lot of agencies do it, but it's more of a Band-Aid
Yeah,
than actually solving the problem.
I think it'd be more expensive in the long run. I don't think we.
And is option 2 even realistic? Can you find 3 police vehicles right now anyway? I mean, you got the truck that came available, but
We know that some of the Ford dealerships, or the Ford dealership on the state contract, they are expecting a shipment in the next couple of months. Unclear how many they're getting or what exactly is available and what the cost is. You scroll up here and you see the difference in the pricing for the 3 platforms that would be available between now and probably a year from now. With the truck being the lowest, it starts off at 31,000. The base model with the features that is included in the one we were looking at right now, that pushes it closer to 34 to 35,000. But you look at the Interceptor, 31 was a base model, 30 try 32, but the ones they're getting, I believe they're about 40,000 if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Sean?
I'm fine with option 1 if that's the best choice.
Me too.
Me too. Consensus is option 1.
Okay.
Want a resolution accepting quotation in the amount of $34,836 from Stu Hansen, Dodge City, for a Ram 1500 crew cab SSV special service vehicle listed in the state Iowa vehicle contract catalog, authorizing city manager to purchase vehicle and pursue proposed financing for reimbursement of said vehicle equipment and installation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Sorry, Logan. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Okay, for other items, we have Zach's update.
Just so you guys, if you get calls, you may be getting calls already actually on one of the properties, but we filed abandoned property cases on 5 properties in town, 2 on 3rd, 1 on 1st, 1 on Broadway, and 1 on Park Street. All have been empty for quite a while, so that's been the big thing. We have to wait now for a court date on all of them. And then once we go through that, we'll keep you updated. So if you got questions,
If I can quickly add on that, Zach, there's 1 on 3rd that he filed on, and they were not exactly sure what the relationship, but there was a group of clearing out part of the property, and they included an RV, and the RV was moved from that property to another nuisance property that I think he also
I see
filed
it
on.
there.
So they're just shifting the problem from one to the other. And
I was wondering if that one, why that one wasn't on the list. I see the bands there now. So, if it's sort of, if there's smoke coming out of it, don't put the fire out. Make the call slow. Okay. B is a street closure granted for National Night Out on August 2nd, 2022, from 5 till 7 p.m.
That did need council approval because it's not on one of the main streets and it's for less than the time limit, so. Just wanted to let you know
I
about it.
should have put it on information at the beginning. All right. So we'll go on closed session, meet in closed session to evaluate the performance of the city manager, which is necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation and that individual's request to close session as provided by chapter 21.5I, the Code of Iowa. Motion,
Second.
all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thanks, everybody.